Hello, I don't have good words for you, but I've got words anyway. I would normally be posting a video tomorrow, but I didn't want to wait that long. So here we go. Baseline. Israel bombed Iran during talks that were supposed to be about not bombing each other. Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, made a claim that he's been making for like 30 years that Iran is weeks away from having a usable nuclear weapon. There is debate among the international community as to whether or not that was true. I say debate like that because most places seem to indicate that's not the case. There's a very big difference between weeks away from the bomb and whatever the state of their uranium enrichment process was. And also, there are countries that have nukes. I didn't check in the Bible myself, but I don't think it says that we are the divine arbiters of who's allowed to have what weaponry forever. Let's not forget that Israel made the first strike in this war. Like, they're the ones with the nukes. Obviously, this has destroyed any notion of diplomacy, and Iran is already saying, how can we possibly trust that the US is acting in good faith with anything? As a refresher, during Trump's first term, he pulled out of the Iranian nuclear deal, and they actually adhered to the deal for like at least a year afterwards. Now he's back, and he's upset about what they're doing and bombed them. He then asserted afterwards that as long as Iran does nothing in response, everything is hunky-dory, which is not how anything works. That's just war, my guy. Bombing foreign soil and then saying, if you do anything else, we'll bomb you more, is war. So despite headlines coming out about various figures in the White House and Pentagon officials saying, oh, we don't want a war, it was just one targeted strike to support, the war that's going on that Israel started. But I want to pivot real quick and point out that there's a lot of conversation right now around whether or not this strike was legal. And let's first just say bombing another country isn't legal regardless. We were not at war with Iran, and then we dropped multiple of some of the largest munitions ever dropped. And now we're trying to say we're not at war with Iran still. During Trump's address about all of this, he said that it was an unconditional success. And again, he asserted that Iran cannot retaliate or the US will make more strikes, which to me sounds like aggression. The multiple stealth bombers dropping bombs on Iran after Israel did a surprise attack on Iran also feels like aggression, for the record. But whether or not it's legal, whether or not it went through Congress, like, for one, when has this administration done anything the right way? And for two, that doesn't make it better. And also, there is precedent for this. Not that it makes it okay. It's not okay. It's extremely not okay. But basically, every president has bombed countries without congressional approval. At least recent presidents, most presidents. And none of that makes it okay. None of it. If the issue that the Democrats have isn't with the bombing and is with the way that the bombing happened, that's a problem. And knowing that they're never going to hold him accountable and knowing that the Republicans aren't going to hold him accountable, I want to take this moment to remind you that accountability only matters if there's the will to enforce it. And the current administration and Congress and Supreme Court have shown time and again, there is not that will to enforce it. Like, who's going to give the order to who and how? It's not going to stop. Like, we knew that this was going to happen. We knew that a second Trump presidency was going to be disastrous. That doesn't make it okay, but we need to be prepared for this. We're already seeing retaliatory strikes from Iran. Israel is still striking Iran. This isn't over by a long shot. The rest of the world is condemning us, as they well should, as we continue to stand behind a pariah state that is the one causing the destabilization in the region it's complaining about destabilization. And don't let this get spun. These are deeply, deeply unpopular moves. Even Trump's own base don't want to get dragged into a war in the Middle East. But propaganda bots are already out in force. Our own intelligence said that Iran didn't have a path to nuclear weapons in the near future. They just made shit up again, just like they did with Iraq. And you can scream about 60% enriched uranium as much as you want, but that doesn't justify bombing another country. If it did, we would be bombed a lot. There was a recent job approval rating poll about Trump, and there was one part of it that it blew my mind. I guess I should have expected it, but it turns out that the youngest generation, the 18 to 29-year-old generation, just 3 months ago had a +8 net approval rating of Trump. the youngest eligible voters had a net positive view of Trump. Now, 3 months later, today, it's at negative 39 among the same cohort, which, like, yay, welcome. You made it eventually, but it just tells me that the propaganda worked. Why would they have believed that? Why would any young person truly believe from any objective reality that Donald J. Trump, a barely alive, lifelong con man with a disastrous first term, would do anything to improve the quality of life for young people in a second term? The amount of people who were flailing during the past election, arguing that this wasn't going to happen, it's mind-boggling. And why do I think that propaganda happened? Because as I mentioned, the propaganda bots are out in force. Where is that youngest generation? They are online. They are on TikTok. And if you recall TikTok during the past election cycle, it was hell. It was entirely arguing, it was entirely bullshit, and it was entirely astroturfed crap in the comments. The amount of people who were asserting that RFK Jr. was not an anti-vaxxer. Ridiculous. Propaganda bots or farms, or whatever you want to call them, they don't need to make sense. They just need to be so omnipresent that sense is no longer a major factor in the equation. They just need to create enough scenarios where someone saw a thing about a thing that made them associate two things together or internalize some belief that they never even thought about, and they've won. When they can answer something easily, for example, why did we bomb Iran? With an answer like, well, they were close to nukes. Wow, that's very acceptable. That's so internalizable. No further nuance necessary. Absolutely no further attention required. If you were duped by this, I don't know what to tell you. You were duped, and it happens. Propaganda is rampant in the United States. You're not alone. I fall for and have fallen for propaganda plenty, which is why I have learned to cross-reference things and read sources that I've been told not to trust by the ones who are telling me to trust them. Does that make me a conspiracy theorist? No. It makes me someone who wants to gather more information from further perspectives than the American empire. Is Iran the good guy? No. I mean, not the government of Iran. The people of Iran are just people, but the government is not good. And also, the United States just conducted another bombing campaign halfway across the world because we said that it's the right thing to do and then invoked the name of God repeatedly. So tell me who's the big, scary, religious, political entity that's going to destroy the world, because I've not been bombed once by Iran. But we're about to see a whole lot more people dead from our tax dollars. As I said, I didn't have good words for you. I'm very, very sorry. There's not much of a silver lining to find here. I can look for the good news. I can try to spin it some way, but we are, again, at war in the Middle East, despite what our leadership wants you to think. Despite how much they wish that they could just launch a bomb and not worry about what happens next. That's warfare. And the rest of the world is calling it out as such. Never let them convince you that you hate a random human being across the world because of stories that you've only ever heard from the people telling you to hate them. Are those stories completely meritless and should be 100% thrown aside? No, not necessarily. But if someone tells you that literally everything that they've ever done is righteous and correct and we should ignore the wrongs from the past and this time it'll be different, yeah, that's worth questioning. Because I once held a hope for a peaceful future, but stuff still happened. Take care.